Hey biologists, Mr. Fott here. Today in this tutorial, I'm going to be helping us complete the Food Webs and Food Chains project for the digital format. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to skip to the third slide and specifically talk about some tips and tricks to help you complete your food web. Because again, part of the instructions is we would like you to create this from scratch. So this is not just, go to Google Images and search for whatever biome it is and copy and paste one over for your food webs. We want to, from absolute blank template, create a food web. So for starters, let's go ahead and set up our blank template. I'm actually going to remove the title card. That's gone. Okay, good. So now we have a nice blank slate that we're going to work with. Next, I'm going to come over to Google, specifically Google Images. For this example, I'm going to be using temperate deciduous forest biome is what I'm going to be focusing on. Now, when choosing your background image, we want to make sure that this is appropriate for your biome, and so it makes sense. So Google Images is going to do a pretty good job of kind of isolating your particular biome. So what I'm going to do is I want to choose a nice image that is very representative of this biome. But I don't just want to choose any one of them. What I want to do is I want to choose a nice large image that has a high resolution because I always like things nice and neat and crisp and clear. So once I come here to my Google Images looking for my biome, I'm going to choose the tools option. I'm going to change the size to large. So this is going to remove any small images like thumbnails and things that are just not going to translate very nicely when I then need to put that image over to my presentation. So each one of these should have a nice large resolution. This one looks pretty good. Let's go with this image. When choosing images, make sure not to choose one that has watermarks. Try to avoid those if possible. Now here we have a nice watermark-free image here. Here is a temperate deciduous forest, nice little path, fantastic. So if this is the one that I would want to do, we want to set this image as a background. So we don't want to copy and paste this. I'll demonstrate. If I were to just simply copy and paste this, the problem with this is that this image is now movable. So it's an object that is now in your presentation. And we're going to need this to not be an object because we're going to put some organisms on top of this, like plants and animals, for instance, once we start to then construct the food webs. So we don't want to just copy and paste an image because it's going to then end up getting sliding around and things. We don't want that to happen. It's more hassle than it's worth. So instead, I'm going to delete that. What I want to do, instead of copying the image, I'm going to right click, copy image address. This is what I want to do first. Now I'm going to come back to my presentation, choose background from the list of toolbar options here, change background, go to image, choose image. We're going to use image by URL. You could also pull things from your Google Drive. You could do your Google image search within this background image search. Or if you happen to, let's say there's a particular biome that maybe you have some nice images that you've taken of some pictures of on hikes or vacations or wherever, you could actually upload your own. In this case, I'm going to copy an image over from Google Images, specifically the URL. Now I'm going to paste this here. It's going to search and find the image for me. Next, I'm going to insert image and then choose done. And there it is. So now notice when I try to click and move the image, I can't. So this image is now set as the background of this particular slide. So I don't need to worry about this image sliding around when I start to then put plants and animals on top of this. So cool, we have our background, very appropriate for temperate deciduous forests. Next, we're then going to start to insert our plants and animals. So once again, I'm going to venture back to Google Images. I'm going to type in bald eagles, let's say. I'm going to find a nice image. So here's a cool one of a bald eagle. Very high resolution, that's good. And once again, we don't want to choose copy and paste. And here's the issue with this. If I were just to copy and paste this over, one, it's too big. Let me make this smaller. So the background, it is very contrasting to the environment. So it doesn't look very pretty, to be honest. And we want to make sure that when we're designing these food webs, we want them to be nice and neat, clean and crisp. If you're like me, I want them to be as visually appealing as possible. So I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to leave this here just to show you the difference. So we're going to use the same image, but we're going to clean this image up. Specifically, we're going to go to a website that's called remove.bg. So when you come to remove.bg, this is going to be an image removal for backgrounds specifically. So when we drag our image over to this or copy and paste it, then it's going to remove the background parts. So I'm going to go back to my bald eagle. I'm going to click and drag, bring it over to this tab, and I'm going to drop it here. You can also copy and paste it as well. And here it goes. So the image now, as part of this little system, will be removing the background. And you're going to see this checkerboard pattern that's in the background. And this is exactly what we're going for. Now we're going to copy and paste this over. So if I copy this image, go back to my presentation, and I'm going to paste it. Still a very large image. I'll make it smaller. But now we can see the difference between the two. So notice how that the one on the right, where we left the background, just kind of copied and pasted the image, the raw image over, we have that kind of distorted color background that didn't really match. But now when we modified it, this looks like the eagle is almost part of the this original image, and it looks a little bit more clean. So I'm going to get rid of this one. I'm going to put my bald eagle over here. Make them a little bit smaller, just so we got enough room to fit everything. Okay. Next thing we want to do is to identify this. So we're going to use the text box. That's the box with the T in it, again, from your toolbar. I'm going to make a text box and label it Bald Eagle, for instance. Now you might need to play with the colors. So notice how we have the black coloring for the letters. It's hard to see, right? So you might need to maybe bold it, increase the font size, maybe change the font, right? So try and do something to make it easily readable, just so we can read the image. So there's the text. I labeled it, my bald eagle. I'm going to do another text box. The second thing we want to label is its role. So these happen to be carnivores. Center, bold, and there we have it. So now here is my first organism that is part of my food web in our temperate deciduous forest. Next, let's add a second one. So I'm going to go back to Google Images. I would like to use a forest mouse, a little field mouse. So I found one. Unfortunately, a lot of these have watermarks, but this one does not. So I'm going to use this image. This is a good one. So once again, I'm going to click and drag, or you can do copy and paste over to my remove.bg website. Pop it into here. It's going to think for a moment. And there we have it. There's our little mouse. And it has the checkerboard pattern in the background. So let's copy it. And let's paste over here. And if you need to, you can crop the edges. There's a lot of blank space. So I'm going to crop my edges just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to make the field mouse a little more to scale, right? Let's say he's hanging out in the path. There's my field mouse. I'm going to label it. So identify what it is. In this case, we have a mouse. And then don't forget to label. And again, you might need to play with the size, the settings, right? Just so we can see things. Okay, now I have 2 out of my 16. And I labeled each one of them, identified what it was on top, and then its role on bottom. Next, I want to then insert an arrow so that I can then connect the 2 of these so I can track the flow of energy. So now I'm going to use the shape option. That's the circle with the square. Click this. It's going to give you a drop-down arrow. We're going to go to arrows. I'm going to choose one of the arrows. There's a bunch of options here. I'm going to choose the up arrow. Now, since the bald eagle, in this case, is going to gain energy from the mouse, then I need to make sure that the arrow is pointing from the mouse to the bald eagle. But when I do this, it could be fixed a little bit. So first off, this is a very large and kind of a thick arrow. So I want to fix this a little bit. So any of the yellow diamond looking things, you can actually use those, kind of close in on it, and you can change the size of the arrow a little bit. So you can make it to your liking. You can also change the colors. Maybe orange is a bad color. How about blue? There we go. And now if you notice, it's not exactly pointing at it. So what we can do is at the top of the image, you're going to see this little sphere. If you click this, you can then rotate it. So you can turn it a full 360 degrees so that you can more accurately do your arrow. There we go. Now it cleaned it up. Perfect. So now you can see we're starting to construct, because now I have two of my organisms identified in my temperate deciduous forest. I got my bald eagle and I have my mouse. I also included the arrow, which is indicating the directional flow of energy. So here's a few tips and tricks, try and help you with some of the food chains. Please feel free to help out or to ask questions from your teacher in case you need any further assistance. You can also reach out to me personally if you would like any more tech tips here. You can email me, jflood@shoreline.org, or of course, send me some Schoology messages. That works as well. So thank you all for watching. Hope this helped.